Konnichiwa and welcome back to the Global Business Channel. Thanks for joining us today. In this video, we are covering Recommendation 2 of the Financial Action Task Force's 40 recommendations, which focuses on national cooperation and coordination concerning anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism policies. We'll also go through the 4 interpretative notes that accompany Recommendation 2, located on page 37 of the FATF Recommendation Handbook. Each Saturday and Sunday, we release videos covering topics related to the offshore global business, corporate, financial, and compliance sectors. We encourage you to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if these topics are of interest to you. Without further ado, let's dive into today's video. Nations or countries ought to establish national policies for anti-money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism, and countering proliferation financing, shaped by identified risks, which was discussed in a previous video of ours in reference to Recommendation 1 on the risk-based approach principle. These policies should undergo regular review, and an authority or coordination mechanism should be designated to oversee them. As you will see from Note 1, proliferation financing risk pertains exclusively to the possibility of violating, not implementing, or evading the targeted financial sanctions obligations outlined in Recommendation 7. Countries must ensure that policymakers, financial intelligence units, law enforcement authorities, supervisors, and other pertinent competent bodies, both at the policy-making and operational levels, possess effective mechanisms enabling cooperation. Additionally, where suitable, they should facilitate coordination and information exchange domestically concerning the formulation and execution of measures to combat money laundering, terrorist financing, and the financing of weapons of mass destruction proliferation. This collaboration should extend to ensuring the alignment of AML, CFT, and CPF requirements with regulations pertaining to data protections, privacy rules, and other similar provisions, such as data security and localization. Even though this recommendation is quite short in content, we must grasp its core attributes and requirements. So let's interpret what was just said. Recommendation 2 emphasizes the crucial importance of national cooperation and coordination in the global fight against money laundering, terrorist financing, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. This recommendation underscores the necessity for countries to establish and maintain effective mechanisms for cooperation and coordination among various stakeholders involved in combating financial crimes. These stakeholders typically include policymakers, law enforcement agencies, financial intelligence units or FIUs, regulatory bodies, supervisors, and other relevant authorities. The aim of Recommendation 2 is to ensure that all relevant entities within a country work together seamlessly to develop and implement policies and measures to combat financial crimes effectively. This collaboration is vital for sharing information, coordinating enforcement actions, and addressing emerging threats in a timely and coordinated manner. Key aspects of Recommendation 2, as we just saw in the introduction, include: Number 1, establishment of mechanisms. Countries are encouraged to establish formal mechanisms or structures that facilitate cooperation and coordination among relevant authorities at both the policy-making and operational levels. These mechanisms should enable effective communication, information sharing, and joint decision-making. Number 2, domestic cooperation. The recommendation emphasizes the importance of domestic cooperation among various authorities involved in combating financial crimes. This includes cooperation between policymakers, law enforcement agencies, FIUs, regulatory bodies, and other relevant entities. Number 3, compatibility with international standards. Countries should ensure that their cooperation and coordination mechanisms are in line with international standards and best practices, including FATF recommendations and other relevant guidelines. Number 4, data protection and privacy. Recommendation 2 also highlights the need to ensure that cooperation and coordination efforts comply with data protection and privacy rules. This includes safeguarding sensitive information shared among authorities and respecting individuals' privacy rights. Overall, Recommendation 2 underscores the importance of fostering a collaborative and coordinated approach to combating financial crimes at the national level. By establishing effective cooperation mechanisms and promoting information sharing among relevant authorities, countries can enhance their ability to detect, investigate, and disrupt illicit financial activities effectively. We now touch on the interpretative notes relating to Recommendation 2. Interpretative Note 1 explains that nations should create suitable interagency frameworks to facilitate cooperation and coordination in the fight against money laundering, terrorist financing, and the financing of proliferation. These frameworks can take the form of a unified structure or separate frameworks dedicated to money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing, respectively. Interpretative Note 2 emphasizes that these frameworks should be overseen by one or more designated authorities or another mechanism tasked with establishing national policies and ensuring cooperation and coordination among all pertinent agencies. Interpretative Note 3 clarifies that interagency frameworks should encompass the authorities pertinent to addressing money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing. Depending on how national functions are organized, these authorities may include key central government departments such as finance, trade and commerce, home affairs, justice, and foreign affairs, entities responsible for law enforcement, asset recovery and prosecution, the financial intelligence units, security and intelligence agencies, customs and border authorities, regulatory bodies and organizations for self-regulation, tax authorities, authorities overseeing import and export controls, entities managing company registries, and, if available, beneficial ownership registries, and finally, other relevant agencies. Lastly, Interpretative Note 4 explains that nations must establish mechanisms to enable efficient operational cooperation and, when necessary, coordination and timely sharing of pertinent information among various competent authorities domestically concerning anti-money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism, and countering the financing of proliferation efforts, both proactively and upon request. These mechanisms could include, for example, steps to clarify the role, information requirements, and information sources of each relevant authority, measures to facilitate the prompt exchange of information among relevant authorities, such as employing standard formats and secure channels, and finally, practical arrangements to support interagency collaboration, like forming joint teams or utilizing shared data platforms. Well, that's it for today's short video on Recommendation 2 issued by the Financial Action Task Force. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you found the information, insights, and key points valuable. We'll continue to share informative content every weekend, so do not hesitate to return to the Global Business channel for insightful videos on the offshore, global, and financial services sectors. Take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Sayonara, guys.